So, thank you. Great to be here today. Honored to be part of this time with you all. And typically when I'm blessed to speak to groups that are part of a team or a culture, it's always important for me to share with you who I am. And many, many years ago when I was at Carhartt, they sent me to Northwestern for a week or two to understand the acceleration of sales performance, but also the acceleration of human performance. And whenever I have the opportunity to say this, which they said in Northwestern, was, for the next couple of minutes, I'd like to invite you to my movie. I want you to understand a few things about me, and then I think as we talk through that a little bit, you'll get to see more of the fiber of what brings me here to you today, because how did this happen, right? There are no coincidences, I think we all realize that, and things do happen for a reason. So a little quick background. Does that sound okay to everybody? Okay. So born in Chicago, raised in New York City. My dad was a chiropractor before his time, and my mother was a pilot during World War II. So you can imagine being raised in that household of revolutionary thought about health and a absolutely career-driven minded and multi-purpose mom. The opportunity for me was to learn as much as I can, as quickly as I could learn that. And also my sister Janice, who was clearly the overachiever of the family, who went on to have an amazing career in nursing, and as one of the living angels, a career in hospice. So that's who I am from the very beginning. But from a career perspective, I was planning and went to school in New York City to be a psychology and special ed major. And my goal was to teach emotionally disturbed children in the worst areas of New York City. So I was blessed to do that in 1975 on 118th Street and First Avenue. And our curriculum was, now think back to then, and maybe some of you weren't even born yet, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and tactile approach to learning to young students who were thrown to the side. No chance. Charlie, you got to close the door because they just act up all the time. They don't have a chance to succeed. Well, Linda Most, Carmela Provenzano, and Doug Vituli, and myself went to Harlem and had a class of emotionally disturbed children, which we took through that curriculum. And I'm happy to tell you, after the first year, all of them were almost ready to be mainstreamed, until I was excessed out during the budget crisis in 1976 in New York City. Prior to that, I was working in an Army-Navy store on Staten Island during college and high school, because my dad, as a chiropractor, had to supplement his income by selling real estate and insurance. And when I told my father that, Dad, here's what I want to do. I want to be the place kicker for the New York Giants, and I want to marry Karen Wedlake. And he said, okay, that's unlikely in one area, maybe a little bit more likely in the other. So my father meets Pat Silvestri at Nat's Men's Shop. He says, you got to give my son a job. And that's how I got to learn the apparel business. So as Randy said, I'm going to work backwards a little bit, and then I'll come back to the Army-Navy store because there's some stories there. In March of 22, I had done Hanes, I had worked for Timberland, I had worked for Carhartt, I had worked for Tier Sport, and I wasn't planning on doing anything other than taking my wife of 47 years to dinner more frequently and playing a lot of tennis. Until I got a call from somebody I did a favor for 25 years ago, John Oler, who's now the EVP at Dunham Sports here in Michigan, and says, look, I know you're a free agent, and these two guys from Canada, from the oil fields of Canada, who worked in the oil fields for 20 years, started a company to honor blue-collar workers all over the world. Here we all are, with the slogan, dirty hands, clean money. and they don't know what they have, and they need somebody to help them. So I started April of 22 as the Chief Growth Officer, migrated to the CEO in March of 23, and now that I've got to hire my network and I have people who are a lot smarter than me in finance, HR, and data, I can now just focus on revenue. So that's kind of where I am now, but it started at a little Army-Navy store on Staten Island. So within the framework of that, I want to kind of, the theme of my time with you today is understanding two things. The magic that you're seeking is in the work you're avoiding. I promise. That is absolutely the key. And we all know what those avoidance pieces are of our lives or our business, correct? Those are the things that we must understand, that embracing those at the highest level will create that magic that you need to have, okay? So Army-Navy store, it's 1978 on Staten Island. It's July, and three guys come into the store, and I noticed something wasn't quite right about what they were doing. Long story short, they're about to leave, and the next thing I know, I'm behind a cash register, and there was a gun on my forehead. Need all your money, and if your owner doesn't get here quick enough, I'm gonna shoot you in the spine, because by then he had me laying down on the floor. So, think about that for a moment. My life is a series, as we all would reflect, if we took the time to do that, and I hope you do. There are these mini and major miracles that happen, and you don't even know why, you don't know when, and you don't know how they happen. So I make it through that. Then I got a call from a guy from Hanes Underwear, Al Ricebaum. I worked for Al for 15 years. And then I went to Carhartt in 1997. Got the job as the rep in New York City, the 5 boroughs, and they asked me to move to Michigan with my wife and 2 teenage daughters. So picture this. Irish Catholic New Yorker, met her in geometry class. She did my geometry homework, and now I'm moving up from New York City to where? To Northville, Michigan. Do we really need to do this, honey? I said, well, I think it's a pretty good idea if you would just trust in this. So long story short, we moved to Michigan with my amazing daughters, Carly and Courtney. So I'm gonna segue. They are my heartbeats. At the age of 70, I got my first tattoo, right here. And because they're so musical and talented, the movie Wicked, which is now gone with Ariana Grande and the others, there's a song in there called For Good, like a handprint on my heart, and that's what's on my right shoulder. So we're here in Northville. I moved here by myself in April of 01. Renee and Courtney and Carly come August 8th of 01. And I would call my mother every morning when I was here. Mom, how are you? I'm good, honey. It's going to be a blessed day. How are you? I said, Mom, something's really wrong. I think I've made the wrong decision. Joe, am I moving too much? You okay? Okay. I think I've made a wrong decision. She says, why? The people here in Michigan at Carhartt are like way too nice. I come into my office, Mom, and the aroma of beef stew in a crock pot with heavy vegetables, because Patty Davis knew I was a healthy eater, and then to my right, I find a peach pie. She said, what's wrong with that? I said, Mom, it just can't be real. So she said in her infinite wisdom, God rest her soul, someday there'll be a sign. Because I know you're a little stubborn like your Sicilian dad, but there will be a sign. 9/11 happens. The first person into my office is Mark Verlaide, the CEO, and what does he ask me? How's your mom? Because my mother lived on the 10th floor of a condo building across from Ground Zero, and he wanted to make sure she was okay. We need to do something for the people at Ground Zero, Charlie. You're connected there more than anybody in the company. See what we need to do. But no fanfare. Nothing. So I called Mitchell Modell, who owned Modell Sporting Goods, 81 stores at that time in New York City. Mitchell, it's Charlie. How are you? How's Karen? Charlie, how are you? Renee, how's your mom? She's okay. Mitchell, we need to do something at Ground Zero. I need your help and guidance. Okay, I'll have Bernard Kerrig, the former police commissioner, call you as he surveys Ground Zero. Midnight or shortly after that, Bernard Kerrig calls my house and says, Charlie, it's Bernie. Here's what we need. We need overalls, we need socks, and we need gloves. Go into work the next day, tell Mark and my friend Steve Carter, God rest his soul, and you'll hear about that in a minute too. This is what they need, Mark. Bibs, overalls, socks, and gloves. Okay, figure out our inventory, figure out what we have on order, figure out the normal replenishment rate, and then let's figure out the quantity that we can afford to send to Ground Zero. So long story short, by noon on Sunday, Carhartt delivered 14,000 pair of bibs, 12,000 pair of socks, and 10,000 pair of gloves. So if ever I needed a sign that I was in the right place, nothing else needed to be said, nothing else needed to be done, but those are the types of things, and I felt it when I walked into your amazing building, that there's something about your culture here, and giving praise to all that you have done, giving praise to all that 2 men and a junk have done. Amazing, you're 40 years in business, you're 10 million moves by the end of 2009. These similarities of culture are tangible. And there's a reason for that, and that's all of you. That's part of it. That's how it builds, that's how it grows, because let me tell you very clearly, the revenue happens if you follow the process. Don't worry about the revenue. Well, here's the data people I just met. Where are you? Dina, somebody? Are you here? Yeah, oh, yeah, okay. I don't mean to avoid the numbers, but I mean let's focus on the process, because then the numbers will okay, good. Those things will always happen. So I stayed at Carhartt for 22 years. My good friend Steve Carter, my partner in sales, passed away June of 2016. I had an opportunity to go to work for VF Corporation in Timberland back in 2014, and I had already sold my house. Moving to New Hampshire, gonna work for Timberland. Renee is on board, the girls are on board, and Steve gets diagnosed the following week with cancer. I've signed the contract, the house is sold. I have to tell him I can't go. Can't leave my friend. I know Steve 25 years, he lives 2 blocks away. Renee and Kathy go get their nails done. I'm gonna leave. So I fly to Greensboro, speak to the CEO, Eric Weissman, of this $13 billion company. It's like, I can't do it. He said, I understand. Someday we'll hire you. Steve passes June of 2016. Things go a little south for me at Carhartt. February of 17, I get a call from Tasha Benson in HR and says, we'd like you to come back. So I started at Timberland April 16th of 2018. Dream job. But here's where I want you to realize, please, the gift you have here. I just met you, but you know when you know. It's a gift. And it's as fragile as you can imagine, and my next story will bring it right to the zenith. It's February 6th, February 7th of 2020. I'm in a meeting with Jim Pisani, the president, and my colleague Cassie Hepner from marketing, and we are going to see an account in Dallas on the following Tuesday. Go through the PowerPoint presentation, and I didn't bring a PowerPoint because I just rather do this, and my notes are there, and if I miss a few things, you know what, I just want to talk to you. So, we have our meeting, we say we're good. Cassie, we're good. She says, no, I know how you and Jimmy are. If it's not exactly right, you guys are going to be pissed off. I said, well, we won't be pissed off. We'll figure it out. But I know these people. It's fine. February 9th of 2020, Cassie took her son, Jack, and her husband, Michael, skiing. And she decided to drop them off. Did I tell you the story already? Decided to drop them off. Goes to the office in Portsmouth, and I'm with my daughter, Courtney and Lewis, in Manhattan having dinner. And my phone is blowing up because the executives are all on a common text thread. Something's going on at headquarters. And in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, it is a idyllic Norman Rockwell town, safe as can be. But on February 9th of 2020, my dream job with dream people who I loved. Sorry. My friend Cassie gets stabbed to death by the security guard at our headquarters because she went in to make sure that we had everything we needed, even though we told her not to. So now that happens, and we're all sideways, of course, terribly, terribly crushed, and then COVID happens. And now we're all disparate, right? We're all everywhere, everything's virtual. So I knew from then that I couldn't stay at Timberland. I couldn't go back. And I never knew what post-traumatic stress was until the FBI grief counselors came to my house in Northville to talk to me about all of the things that I was feeling with survivor's guilt. So on this journey that I've been on, the many miracles, the blessings are many, but understanding the value of this moment right here with all of you is what you all need to feel, which will continue to drive the success of 2 Men in a Truck. So let's lighten the mood a little bit. And now I have decided, going back to 1978, I was just married. And my wife said, honey, I would really like to go to Las Vegas this summer. I said, sweetheart, I'm making $13,520 a year. Our apartment is $255 a month, and we're barely scraping by. So the only thing I knew to do was teach people to run, because I ran track in college and high school. So I put an ad in the Penny Saver, and that ad said, jogging lessons, $5 an hour, meet me at Monsignor Farrell High School. So I go see Father Bergen at Monsignor Farrell. I said, Father Bergen, I just need your track. I don't expect many people, but I need your track to teach people to jog. I need to make some money. Renee wants to go to Las Vegas. Great. Sunday, 33 people show up, and Father Bergen is on his megaphone saying, Siracusa, can you get over here, please? He said, what the hell are you doing? There's 33 people. Who's going to trip? Who's going to fall? Who's going to faint? Do you know what you're doing here? Long story short, I was never a long-distance runner in high school or college. I was always a sprinter. But because I had the opportunity, the magic you're seeking is in the work you're avoiding. Now I get to run slow with these 33 people. And what did that lead me to? The 1978 New York City Marathon. And what did that lead me to? To the 1980 New York City Marathon. And what did that lead me to? The 1981 New York City Marathon. All of these different things that fall into place. And in 1985, we okay for time? In 1985, I injured my hip. My chiropractor said, you got to go play tennis. Okay. So go to Walker Park on Staten Island, the birthplace of tennis in the United States, founded by Mary Atterbridge, and I meet Charlie Casper. And Charlie says, boy, you really are terrible. But I can help you. So we start to hit a little bit, and we become buddies. I hit a little bit more. And then our wives sent us to tennis camps, and we got a little bit better. And then more camps got really better. And like I said, I moved here on August 8th of 2001. I know I'm a little all over the place, but I don't want to go to the notes because I don't want to lose the momentum here. Now we move here August 8th. 9/11 happens. Charlie was off that day. battalion chief, rescue boats, New York Harbor. Went in and perished in the collapse of the South Tower. I don't know this till the second Saturday of February of '02. I'm driving back from playing tennis at Farmington Tennis Club, and I call his wife, Lorene. Lorene, it's Charlie Siracusa. How are you? Oh my God. No, how are you? Renee was like so mad that you moved to me. I said, don't worry about Renee, how about you? She said, I get by a day at a time. That's what I do. What can I do for you, Lorene? She says, I want you to find people in Michigan or in your life who are as bad as you were, and teach them the joy of tennis in honor of my husband. That brought me to Senior Olympics here in Michigan. That brought me to the Nationals in 2011 in Houston. They did an article on me because they found out the story that I just told all of you. Houston Chronicle does an article. I send it to Lorene. And what does Lorene do on the 10th anniversary of 9/11? He says, I had no idea what I was going to talk about because I didn't want to just talk about an obituary of Charlie. So I used your article about your devotion to my husband on the 10th anniversary of 9/11. So tennis for me is way bigger than medals, championships, means nothing. But then it's 2022 and I'm going to the Nationals again in Florida. And I meet Robbie Risden from Catholic Central, and we start to take some lessons. She's the best tennis coach I've ever had. And she says, you know what, I don't know what I'm feeling, but the Holy Spirit like brought you here for some reason. Do you have an interest in coaching the kids? And I just had taken the job as the Chief Growth Officer. So my time was limited, but I knew I needed to do it. And that's how I wound up meeting Vijay and then ultimately Randy and his family and all of the people at Catholic Central. So my tribute to Charlie Casper continues. My career has been blessed, as I've said, with Timberland and Tier and Carhartt. And those are the types of things that, as we take our journey in our careers here, as we continue to find the magic in the work we're avoiding, it takes us to a place of really self-awareness for one another, right? And what I want you to think about, if you don't mind for a minute, regardless of your department, your role, your responsibilities here at Two Men in a Truck or Two Men and Junk, how about if you act as the CEO of your own area? And if you were that, how would you act? What would you do differently? How would you challenge yourself? How would you prioritize things? But most importantly, what would be the role model you were setting for the people who sit next to you in the next cubicle, in the next apartment, on the next floor? What are those things that you would do? A few things that successful CEOs do: they start early. They stay focused. They're very decisive, and they prioritize their health. So as the CEO of your business, which you are, I just said they are. I don't think it needs to be in the job description, but is that okay? But those are the types of things that, as a CEO of your own world and your responsibilities, I would like you to consider. Because those things beget other things. And what you want to continue to do in your careers here at Two Men in a Truck and Two Men in Junk, am I saying that right? You want to continue to move through the process of understanding that you are in complete control of your destiny if you continue to follow those, sorry about that, guys, I don't want to miss it. Follow those pieces of effective leadership as a CEO. High functioning team. It's you guys. How about the highest functioning team in the world? Who are they? The Navy SEALs. Big fan of Goggins. Big fan of John Jones, all of it. Who knows Goggins in the room? You know Boats and Logs? That was my second tattoo. You know what Navy SEALs do? Here's your matrix. Here's your graph. High trust, high performance. You would think that the Navy SEALs who depend on one another would always want high trust, high performer. Not correct. Because that high performer sometimes became that because he didn't take care of the people who were surrounding him. He or she was more interested in their own success. So that's why the Navy SEALs, hands down, will take high trust and mid-level performance before anybody else. I want you to focus on 3 wins a day. A physical win, a mental win, and a spiritual win. Every day. Spiritual. Say a prayer. Somebody needs one. Maybe you need one. Mental aspect of the day. Learn something. Be curious. And physical, go for a walk. Doesn't take a gym. Doesn't take a gym, doesn't take anything else. Okay. In 1973, I got about 4 minutes, we good? In 1973 at Harvard, they did a study. They asked every graduating senior to raise their hand if they had a goal. All the hands went up. Next question. How many of you wrote it down? 5%. 1993, they interviewed all of the people who were still blessed to be alive or part of the alum. The 5% of the people who wrote it down were more successful in a career and financially than the 95% of the people in total who didn't write it down. You got to write it down. Here's where my OCD comes in. I've been writing down every workout I've done since 1978. I do a misogi every year. Literal term of a misogi is a Japanese term for cleansing. Modern term is find something every year that's going to take you out of your comfort zone. The magic you're seeking is in the work you're avoiding. Do something different. Test yourself. So on my 72nd birthday on October 9th, I went downstairs on my tri-bike trainer. Started at 11:49. I rode through the night. I rode 72.02 miles as my misogi because I wrote it down in 2023 that that's what I wanted to do. Writing things down is very, very, very important. But I want you to think about this as I wrap this up a little bit, and 2 more quick points if you don't mind. We can all take comfort in looking back. It's easy. What's really hard is making the vision of looking forward. Because your rear view mirror is 96% smaller than your windshield. So here are 2 men in a truck and 2 men in junk, and with all this amazing culture that you have, I would ask each of you to inspire one another to maximize that 96%. It's very important. And life is a funny thing, right? It's broken down into 3 segments. First part of the third of your life, you earn. Got to make money to support your family. Second part of your life, you start to learn a little bit more. Third part of your life or your career, you want to return. You want to give back. And I will tell you that the blessing of giving back and that feeling of dopamine that you get when you give back is the driving force of cultures like yours, businesses like yours, and people like yourselves. God bless you. Have a happy holiday, and it's been my pleasure to be here with all of you.